Welcome everybody to another video of Ancient Greece Reloaded. Today we will talk about the famous goddess Persephone, the five of Hades and queen of the Underworld, and we will also clarify the misconception about Adonis and Persephone being lovers. By the way, if you like the video, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel so as to stay tuned for upcoming videos. Overall, Persephone was the queen of the underworld in Greek mythology, for Persephone was a Greek goddess and the wife of the powerful god Hades. It is hard to imagine a more exalted parentage for the goddess Persephone than the one she had, for Persephone was the daughter of Zeus and Demeter, both Olympian deities, while according to the Orphic myths, Persephone's mother was Rhea. Surprisingly, the exalted parentage of Persephone did not make her one of the 12 Olympians, although many of her half-siblings did receive the honor. Persephone would grow up to be a beautiful goddess, and as a result, Persephone was also known as Kori, the maiden. Persephone would spend much of her time interacting with nature, planting and nurturing flowers and plants with her attendants, some naiad nymphs. The beauty of Persephone would soon attract many of the male members of the Greek pantheon, and it was said that various Olympian gods, including Apollo, Eros, Hephaestus and Hermes, all made advances towards the daughter of Zeus. Persephone would reject all of the potential suitors, and Persephone's mother, Demeter, was powerful enough to ensure that Persephone's wishes were respected by all. There was one god, though, who was not put off by Demeter's protection of Persephone, and that god was Hades, Demeter's brother. After the Titanomachy, Hades had been given dominion over the underworld, but the god now had a desire for a worthy consort. Some tell of Hades complaining to his brother Zeus, and Zeus suggested Persephone as a worthy wife, whilst other sources tell of Hades simply setting his attention upon the goddess. In either case, Hades ascended from his realm, and at a time when Persephone had become separated from her attendants, Hades struck, abducted his niece and returned once again to his realm. Depending on the source, many regions of ancient Greece are said to be the place of the abduction of Persephone and the location where Hades descended into the underworld, such as Sicily, Attica, Argolis and Arcadia and so forth. The disappearance of Persephone caused much angst to Demeter, for it was a disappearance with no witnesses. Demeter would transform the Sirens, the attendants of Persephone, by giving them wings so as to aid their search for Persephone, and possibly deform them as well, for Demeter was angry at them for not stopping the abduction. Demeter herself would wander the earth searching for her daughter, and as she did so, she neglected her work, aka harvest and agriculture, and the world was starving with many dying. Eventually, Helios, the god of the sun, who observes everything, told Demeter of Hades' abduction of Persephone. This news did little to comfort Demeter, for Hades was all-powerful in his realm, and she could do nothing to force her brother to return her daughter. As the world continued to starve, Zeus was forced to intervene. Zeus dispatched his son Hermes, who was also a Greek psychopomp, to mediate with Hades and gain the release of Persephone. Hades met with Hermes and listened to the words of the messenger god. Zeus had little ability to force Hades to act, but nevertheless, Hades recognized that he could not simply refuse Zeus' request. At the same time, Hades had no wish to give up Persephone completely. Hades therefore tricked Persephone into consuming pomegranate seeds, meaning that the consumption of food in the underworld bound the eater to that realm. Depending on the source, it was said that Persephone ate either 3, 4 or 6 pomegranate seeds. Thus Persephone was bound to spend 3, 4 or 6 months with Hades in his realm, as his wife. For the time that Persephone was not bound to Hades, she was free to return to the earth's surface, where she would be reunited with her mother. The separation and reunification of Persephone with Demeter would be the reason behind the growing seasons, for when the mother and daughter were separated, Demeter would mourn, and nothing would grow. Thus winter, and when reunited it would be spring and summer. Thus, Persephone would be an important agricultural goddess to the ancient Greeks, with many sanctuaries dedicated to the goddess in hope of bountiful harvests. Today, Persephone is better known as the queen or goddess of the underworld, rather than as an agricultural goddess, and surviving tales of Persephone see her in the realm of her husband, and show both her benevolence and her wrath. Minthe was one such object of the wrath of Persephone, for the Naiad nymph either claimed her superiority to Persephone or else claimed that she would win the love of Hades. To be more precise, she was Hades' ex-lover, before Hades married Persephone, aka, and in today's terms, an angry ex that could not handle the breakup. In either case, an angry Persephone, or Demeter, was said to have transformed the nymph into the mint plant. The most famous surviving story of Persephone tells of the descent into the underworld of the Greek heroes Theseus and Pirithous, for they had vowed to make Persephone the new wife of Pirithous. Some tell of how it was the anger of Persephone at the impudence of the pair of heroes, which caused Hades to confine Theseus and Pirithous in the underworld. The same tale also shows the benevolence of Persephone, for it was also said in some versions of the myth that it was Persephone who agreed that Heracles could release Theseus from his shackles, and it was also Persephone who convinced Hades that Heracles could take Cerberus to the earth's surface for one of his labors. Indeed, the benevolence of Persephone is more apparent than her anger in the surviving stories, for it was also Persephone that agreed to let Eurydice live with her husband Orpheus, when the hero descended into the underworld. Persephone would also assist Psyche when Aphrodite dispatched the lover of Eros to the underworld to retrieve some of the beauty cream of Persephone. It was also Persephone who agreed to Sisyphus' request to return to the world, although of course King Sisyphus was tricking the goddess. Away from the underworld, Persephone also appears in the story of Adonis, and the story goes as follows. Aphrodite gave a chest containing the infant Adonis to look after to Persephone. Persephone fell in love with the youth though, and when Aphrodite came to retrieve Adonis, Persephone refused to give up on him. Zeus had to mediate in the argument, and it was decided that Adonis would spend a third of the year with Persephone, a third of the year with Aphrodite, and a third of the year Adonis was free to choose for himself what to do. Adonis would actually spend his third of the year with Aphrodite, in preference to Persephone. Now, be careful guys. In contrast to the mainstream belief, no original source states that Persephone was a lover of Adonis, or that they were in love, the way we understand it today. They may have spent time together, but not as lovers. Again, no original source supports that fact. All this stuff about them being lovers is mostly mentioned by satirical sources some centuries later, or some Christian sources. Also the words I love, I am in love, etc., and in general the term love, had various meanings in ancient Greece. It is a similar case about the word orgy and all the nonsense that is supported today. Originally, an orgy had nothing to do with sexual intercourse whatsoever. We have a dedicated video about it, which you can also find in the video description below. On the flip side, Aphrodite was indeed said to have two children with Adonis, a son Golgos and a daughter Viroi, based on Nonnus Dionysiaca. In the surviving tales of Persephone, based around the Hesiodic and Homeric tradition, it was considered that Persephone had no children, but in the less famous Orphic tradition, it was said that Persephone actually gave birth to several children. The first of these was Zagreus, the first incarnation of the god Dionysus, born to Persephone when Zeus seduced her while in the form of a serpent. Zagreus would be killed by the Titans, before being reborn to Semele. The same parentage of Persephone and Zeus was also said to have brought forth the underworld goddess Melinoi. Finally, Persephone was also said to have had children with her husband Hades in the Orphic tradition, these children being the Erinyes, aka the Furies. Although, in the more common Hesiodic tradition, the Erinyes are considered to have been born to Gaia from the blood of Uranos. Let us finish with the following saying. Not speaking well of others is not only sinful by itself, but lets evil intrude into the soul. Socrates. That being said, remember guys to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel, it would help us a lot. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for upcoming videos.